I'm going to touch on that in a vlog, which is coming at the end of this week. But we're going to launch this series called Tech Tip Tuesday, if you guys like it. So make sure you let me know if you like it. So our Tech Tip Tuesday, it's going to be, we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to talk about delay boxes, throttle stops, bracket racing, class racing. Race fuel is going to be our first one. But let me know if you guys like it, because there's a lot of misinformation out there on YouTube. You have people that say that you can build an engine in 3 hours, 500 horsepower without taking any measurements. It's not true. And even if you did, you were able to pull it off, I don't know how long that's going to last. But yeah, so we're going to launch a series called Tech Tip Tuesday, and our first one's going to be about Q16. Reason we picked Q16 to make our first tech tip about is because it's a trending topic right now on YouTube. You have some creators that are singing the praises of Q16, and there's a lot that goes into Q16. It's a fantastic race fuel. I run Q16 in my car, but it's not what I started with, and if you don't do your research on Q16, you could be causing like major issues, detonation issues with your engine, and that's no good, no bueno. So we're going to talk about Q16, we're going to talk about C12, and we're going to talk about C16 in this video, because they are the three fuels that I ran with my 363. So starting with the 363, we put that in 2021, I believe, was the first year of us running the 363. We started with C12 on that car. I mean, it worked. We weren't too pleased with the fuel. We were finding that there was an issue with our application that some other people didn't have, and I don't really want to elaborate too much into what we were having with it, because it took us a while to figure it out. It took us a track rental to figure it out, and I don't want to give the information out for free, but we ran C12 for the majority of our race season. Towards the end of our race season, we tried C16 for one race, which was like our .90 Nationals. It really didn't go off, actually, because the weather was so bad. Like, I think we did like 2 rounds or something, like the first day, and then like the second day, like it just like rained out, something like that. But we tried the C16, and the first couple passes were great. We had the car warmed up. Actually, we ended up going about a mile per hour faster with the C16 versus the C12. When we were running the C12, our mile per hour was around the 127, 128 mark. When we switched to the C16, we were about 129. We were knocking on the door to 130. So I'm like, this is great. Like, I like this. Picked up 1 mile an hour just by switching, and it really wasn't cost crazy. I don't think it was really that much more. And we also bought it used from somebody, so it was like he tried it for his car. It didn't work for him. So like, it really wasn't a big deal for us to test C16. So we were going into the second race of the .90 Nationals, which again, I said it really didn't go off because the weather was bad. But if I remember correctly, we had one time shot and go. And I warmed the car up how I normally warmed it up. I tried to stage it how I normally staged it. Got on the 2-step, and I just heard it like it was lazy, it was missing, it just sounded horrible. And, sorry, I'm getting shaky. Tried to race the car on it, and it just practically like misfired the whole track. It just sounded horrible. I thought I broke something. Actually, come to find out, the car just was not warmed up. So something we learned with C16 is the car has to be warmer for the fuel to be successful. But actually ended up winning first round with one really bad run. But I think that was like it for the rest of the race. I think we split, or they got one more round in and then we split, something like that. But I mean, the C16 was okay. It was just something we learned, is that it had to be warmer. 2021, we were going into ACCO's Halloween bash. So we were going to run Pro Dial, took the delay box out of the car, was going to try to do this with no delay box, and we just tried Q. Now with Q, they tell you to go up how much? 4%? Or 4 jet sizes? Yeah, 4 jet sizes to run Q. We started there and we ended up going up like 7? 10. We ended up going like 10 because we just couldn't get fuel into this. So some backstory, and I'm going to attach clips for each of the different fuels just so you can see what we were working with. When we first brought the car out with the C12, I was about to say 110, with the C12, all out, car was going high 1020s. I think it was more like 1030s. C16, we never ran it all out. We only ran on the throttle stop. With the Q, we tried to run it all out, and we got down to, I believe, like 1010, something like that, 1012, 10 teens. So kept jetting it up. Next thing you know, we're like high 10.0s, like 10.09. Kept jetting it up, 10.04. And like we were right at like that 10.0 barrier. Like I was actually about to run 10.0 index that day, but you needed like a passenger seat and you needed like all this other stuff. You needed mufflers and we didn't have that stuff. So couldn't run 10.0 index, but people were like, actually somebody was going to buy my entry into 10.0 index, but I did not have the stuff. The rules did not fit the rules for 10.0. So we were knocking on the 10.0 door. And that was Saturday. That was the Halloween bash. Ended up winning first round of that. Ended up splitting. So we dialed 10.09 in that race, and I ended up going at 10.13, but the car was actually like on like a 10.05 pass. Like I was pedaling it. So we go back the next day at ACCO because I'm like, I wasn't going to. We were going to pull the engine, but I was like, I got to get a 9-second run. I got to get a 9-second run out of this car. Like, it's been a goal since I've owned this car. Got to get a 9-second pass. So we left the throttle stop underneath the car, which we just turned the timers off. We found anywhere having the throttle stop underneath the car, it's anywhere between 5 to a 10th. Haven't exactly honed in on it yet because we played around with it at different tracks. Haven't quite figured out how much exactly it's worth, but easy 5 to a 10th. And I joked with my dad, I'm like, watch, this car is going to go 10.0 flat. And it did. It went 10.0 flat. And I'm like, you know what? It's fine. I was close enough to the 9-second barrier. Let's just see how the Q does on the throttle stop. We liked it on the stop. I mean, fixed some of our issues. We were going like 134 on the throttle stop, 135. Like, we were happy with it. Last pass of the day comes, and I said to Mike running the lanes, I'm like, do you think I can get one more run in? And he's like, can you get up here in like 5 minutes? And I'm like, yeah. So flew the car back to the pits, ripped the throttle stop off, put the spacer on, and we're like, we're just gonna full on send it. So I'm like, I gotta get this 9-second run. I gotta get this 9-second run because we were so close to it. Mind you, obviously the weather got worse throughout the day. We were still working with good air, but mind you, the weather got worse throughout the day. So I'm like, it's possible we could do another 10.0 pass because the weather got a little bit worse, but why not try it? So get the spacer on, go, and I make a pass, and it goes 995. So I hit it. I got in trouble, not in trouble, but I got a little bit in trouble on the return road because I didn't have a cage in the car at the time. I had my dragster license, but I didn't have a cage in the car. Chassis wasn't certified, so like, all right, congratulations, you got your run. Now put it in the trailer and get it ready for next year because, you know, you don't have your cage. So we were happy with the Q. Came out the next year on the throttle stop. We were pushing 136 on the throttle stop with the Q16. Got in trouble at NHRA. Ended up putting cage in the car like 2 weeks later. But yeah, because like we only needed 2 more bars.
So this is one piston that we ran Q16 on. And yeah, there's the rod. The rod looks fine. But the piston, you can see, has definitely some wear on it. And this was Q16 sitting on the piston, I think, for about 6 hours. We have another one, but I'm just going to show you this one. But yeah, 6 hours of Q16 sitting on it.
But the thing with Q16, I'm singing the praises of it because I'm telling you how I went from like 1030s to 995. I picked up like 2.5 tenths. I picked up about 7 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour going to Q16. But the problem with Q16 is it's highly corrosive. You're talking an oxygenated fuel. So you have to drain it out of your fuel cell every single night. Like when we put it in our car, let's say we put it in our car at like 9 o'clock in the morning to make it pass. Before we load that car up to go home, we have released the lines of the fuel cell, drained the fuel back into our pails or our jug because you can't have it sit in there. Another thing that we do is once we've drained it, normally we drain it outside of the trailer. Sometimes we do it inside the trailer. It's a little dicey because like with the wing and everything, it hits the roof. But once that car gets pulled in the trailer, we leave the fuel pump off and we run that fuel completely out of the lines. Our neighbors, like whoever we park next to, like they hate us at the track because like you have to get it completely out because it's so corrosive. Like I'm going to show you like videos of like my pistons. You have to get it completely out. So like you run it without the fuel pump. Obviously, since there's no fuel going to the carburetor, it eventually runs out and it shuts off. You have to keep cranking it though and try to get all that fuel out, like every single last drop, because it is so corrosive. And if you read the label, it tells you to get it out. But I mean, again, like, you know, sometimes 8, 9, 12-hour days, you're traveling, like you're tired, you just want to go, but like you need to get it out of the car because like I can't tell you, we've been through needles and seats in the carburetor because it is so, and we always drain it, but it is so corrosive. Like you need to get it out. So just wanted to give you a little background on Q16. You can decide if it's worth the power, or worth the money, the power that you gain. It may not make as much power for your application. It's not going to be this magic fuel that you just put it in your car and you pick up 7, 8 miles an hour like we did. You might, but you probably won't because if it's like a 632 big block, that's already making an insane amount of power. It doesn't need that extra oxygen shoved into it. So it's like, we've talked to people that have tried Q and they're like, this is not worth the money, like it's a waste. I only picked up like 2 miles an hour, but they're already cramming in a bunch of air into a bunch of oxygen into their engine, where we weren't. We're a small block, we're 8.2 deck, like we're not this crazy engine. Like this engine, the only custom thing on this engine is our camshaft. Like everything else is like off the shelf, Mahle power pack pistons, regular AFR cylinder heads, not ported. Like there's nothing insane in our engine, but we picked up a lot because we needed that oxygen. Some other people might not. So you kind of have to decide if it's worth the money. I mean, worst come to worst, you try it, you find it's not worth, You jet it. You have to definitely jet it.
Pull a little bit of timing.
Read the label. Pull some timing out. Worst come worst, you try it. You don't like it. It is what it is. Go back to whatever fuel that you were running before. It's not this magical fuel that's going to give you like an extra 100 horsepower, but it could. It depends on your application. So if you're going to run Q16, you just have to weigh the cost. Like, are you going to drain out of your fuel cell each night? Are you going to run out of your car each night? Like, is the power that you pick up worth the price tag? Because for us, it wasn't even just the power. It was the consistency for us. That's why we stuck with it. Because really, it's obviously great to be 8 miles an hour faster on a fuel. But if you could save some money,
with being consistent in another fuel, would it be worth it? But we weren't consistent on some other fuels.
What are you racing for?
Yeah, so it's like if you just have to decide. But that's our first Tech Tip Tuesday. So you have the C12 versus the C16 versus the Q16. And again, if you're gonna run Q, you have to make sure that you get it out of your carburetor, you get it out of your fuel cell, you make sure that is out of your engine because it is highly corrosive. It will eat stuff. So if you have any questions about Q16, drop them in the comments. If you have any questions about any of the fuels, drop them in the comments. If you have any topics that you want us to talk about for Tech Tip Tuesday, drop it in the comments, because I'm leaning towards doing a whole spiel on class racing. I'm leaning towards talking about bracket racing and delay boxes and throttle stops. But I want to make sure it's content that's geared towards what you guys want to see. So if there's anything you want us to talk about, drop it in the comments. And yeah, thanks for sticking with us for our first Tech Tip Tuesday. And hopefully we'll have some racing content up in the next week or two. So thanks for following along, guys.